You know what I get such a kick out of? All that glitters, is not necessarily pewter. But this evening, we're going to talk a little turkey, a little pewter power with Charlie Bregg.
I don't get that, but I'm sure there's some
Did you get
pewter.
that? Pewter, all that glitters is gold, but yet pewter doesn't. So we need to talk a little bit about the Bucks.
Charlie, thank you very much for joining us. How are you?
Stretching it too long.
Good.
Charlie, nice to see you.
I hate to say it, but I got it.
We wanted to congratulate you on winning the trivia and going to visit La Costa Dolce and South Howard Avenue. How did you know that answer? Were you surely?
I relayed the information to Frank a long time ago. I shot a film in Kansas City for an organization called the Northwest Missouri Law Enforcement Assistance Council. And it was a public relations film.
Sounds boring.
Well,
he's still sleeping.
Clarence Kelly, who used to be the FBI director, at the time was the police chief in Kansas City, and he was a heck of a cop. And they did this film called Why Me, and it was about the whole equation of, when you get stopped for a ticket, for speeding, you get a ticket.
Because he was going just as fast as I was.
Yeah, exactly.
Why me?
Why me? And police have they have their side of that equation too. They're trying to be even-handed. Anyway, we hired Raymond Burr.
Oh, sure.
To do the
voiceover. And
way back before he was Raymond Burr, right?
No, he was
always Raymond
Perry
Burr.
Mason. How old do you think I am? He was doing Perry Mason. This was back in about 1972 or thereabouts, something like that. He was still a real top of mind guy,
Sure.
And anyway, we talked about Perry Mason and Earl Stanley Gardner and how the show was like the novels and how it was different. And he talked about this guy who was how they had done it on radio years before. And one of the guys whose name I didn't know until I looked it up on the internet was the guy, apparently, according to Frank, that Burr was up against for the TV.
Right, for the actual
for
broadcast
the radio
program.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was just accidental that I happened to have some
strange little nugget of something that tied into somewhere
Yeah.
in the journey of your life. You've done so many things.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to just say that you must have a story like that. You have been in the video production world for 40 years.
About 44.
44 years.
Mm-hmm.
And for you to remember the Visitor Bureau conference, blah, shoot, that's amazing. You surely must have stories to tell on every production that you've been involved in. It's not often that we get to have somebody who's been in the business as long as Charlie has been in the business. Let's hear about how you feel about the transition from, 3/4 inch and 1 inch tape to HD now and what your thoughts are. Maybe a funny story to share.
Well, actually, the odd thing is I gave a talk about that about 3 months ago to the Florida media professionals.
Yeah, FMPT.
Talking about the transition from out of film, which is a totally nonlinear medium,
Right.
into electronic, into basically videotape back in the days of the old quad machines, which was totally linear.
Right.
I hated every minute of it. I absolutely hated it because how
it was destructive.
Well, it was destructive. The technology was driving the creative process instead of the other way around.
Right.
And then I was down at Post Edge doing a film transfer back in the late 80s, and I saw this thing called an Avid. And it had the quality of sort of like second or third generation 3/4. But
Yeah,
it looked,
right.
But
It
it
was
looked pretty good.
really-
It was totally offline.
Yeah.
You'd offline on it, and then you'd go in and put your EDL,
EDL
on a
list and go
disc,
boom
and
on your
stick
floppy.
it in there, and they'd put in tape one, and it would put and I thought, this is the future. I thought,
This is cool.
This is cool now, editing. And since that time, what has happened...
Wait a minute, that was the late 80s?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I remember
80s?
saw an Avid, running on like a Quattro 650 or something like that,
Oh, yeah.
back in like 1993, and I thought that was like when they first came out, but you must have been
I think
first
it was
back
late
in the
80s.
day.
It might
Wow.
have been
No,
90.
no.
Well, then-
it was,
I'm not
it was
comparing-
17 or 18 years ago. It was
I'm
a
just
long
saying,
time.
wow, it was even before I
Yeah.
thought it was new, it was around.
Well, I want to hear the rest of the story, and I also want to hear your predictions, so we don't have much time left. So finish your
Well,
story.
it's just that what has happened, if you stop and think about it, is that the electronic mediums have all emulated the film process.
They
film
have. They're
process
trying to get
works.
back. Yep.
I mean, a symphony is just like a flatbed editing table without the film reels. It works the same way. It's the same process. That's wonderful. It's a
It's
great
about
way
telling
to
the story. It's about understanding what you're trying to do with the imagery that you're putting together.
not just punching in time code numbers.
Exactly.
Not just splicing.
Yeah.
You know, we have to end the show tonight. Thank you for joining us. We have to end the show with the Buccaneers-Jacksonville game. What are your predictions? And we'll revisit this next week.
I think the Bucs will win the game because I don't think Jacksonville can put up enough points. If the Bucs can score early, it could get ugly.
What do you think?
I think 24-10.
24-10. I'm going to write
Let's
that down.
down.
I ain't got a pencil. What happened to my pencil?
Charlie, thank you very much
My
for
pleasure.
jumping in and hanging out with us. And
Thanks.
glad you happened to be here. Glad you
Our
had to
on-call
the
guy
place.
right there. We just, boom, hey, there's Charlie Bregg. Bring him on. He's interesting.